All right, so today's lesson, we are going to be focusing on solving real world problems using multiplication. So we're going to take the fluency that we've been building with the multiplication algorithm, and now we're going to apply it. So your learning target for today is I can solve real world multiplication problems by using bar diagrams, equations, and the standard multiplication algorithm. So if we get started, the very first problem that I'm going to take a look at is going to be in your visual learning on page 144. And it says in 1980, a painting sold for $1,575. In 2015, the same painting sold for 5 times as much. What was the price of the painting in 2015? Okay, so we're going to be really working on using bar diagrams and equations. And we talked yesterday about when you write an equation, if they don't give you the three parts, they don't give you the two factors and then the product, you're going to represent one of the parts that's missing using a variable. So the problem that we have is it was $1,575. And in 2015, it sold for 5 times as much. So those are my two factors. So the price of the painting and then how much it sold for in 2015 is are my two factors. Now my product or the total or the new cost, they didn't tell me. It didn't say in 2015 the painting cost X amount of dollars. So we don't know. So we're going to look at using a variable to determine what the cost is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use P for the price of the painting. Now I'm going to take this one step further and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just model this using a bar diagram to help me kind of figure out what this is going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my first bar diagram, and then I'm going to draw another bar diagram. And then my first bar diagram up at the top all the way across is my total. So my total is going to be price in 2015. That's going to be my price. That's going to be what's going to be up here on the total. And then down here, I'm going to just write 1980. And then I'm going to write 2015 here. And here it was 1,575. And so I'm going to go ahead 1, 2, 3, 4, divide my box up into 5 pieces because in 2015 it was 5 times as great. So I'm going to have in here 1,575, 1,575, 1,700, 575, 1,575, 1,575. So I've set up my bar diagram to where I'm showing that the price in 2015 is 5 times as greater as it was in 1980. So this is just a way that I can visually see the problem. I'm okay to actually go ahead and solve using that standard algorithm. So to use that standard algorithm, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to multiply 1,575 times 5. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to multiply this. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to round 15,075 to a nice number that's going to be easy for me. If I round it, it would be 1,600. Well, I don't know what 16 times 5 is, but I do know what 15 times 5 is. So I'm going to round this to 1,500, and I'm going to multiply it by 5. So 5 times 15 is going to be 75. And then I put my 2 zeros after. So I have 7,500. Okay, so my answer needs to be around 7,500. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start multiplying. 5 times 5 is 25. I put down the 5, regroup the 2. 5 times 7 is going to be, I almost said 12. It's not 12. It's going to be 35 plus 2, which is going to be 37. So I put down the 7. I regroup the 3. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 3 is going to be 28. So I put down the 8. I regroup the 2. And then 5 times 5 is 1 plus 2 is going to be 7. So my answer is $7,875. Now, again, look at this and it's 300 away. That's not a reasonable answer. But I also rounded down 1,500 quite a bit. So if you're not sure whether it's a reasonable answer, then you need to go ahead and you need to do 1600 times 5 and see what you get. So when I do 1600 times 5, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to break it apart. So I'm going to break it apart to where I do 10 times 5 is 50, and then 5 times 6 is 30. So 50 plus 30 is going to be 80. So it's going to be 8,000. So it's in between those two values, so it is a reasonable answer. Okay, so what I would do is I would say P is equal to 7,875. Going back to that original equation that I had written, I'm telling the price of the variable, I'm explaining what the value of P is after I've solved it. All right, so let's take a look at your guided practice on page 145. We're going to skip number 1. I'm going to skip number 1. If you'd like to write a real world math problem, go ahead and write a real world math problem. But I'm focusing on the understanding of, can you solve and do a bar diagram. So it says the bar diagram's already given for us on number 2. It says Sharon's stationery store has 1,219 boxes of cards. May's Market has 3 times as many boxes of cards. How many boxes of cards does May's Markets have? So if I take a look at what the bar diagram is telling me, so let me go ahead and just build it. Actually, I'm just going to go pull it from the book. Trick, and now my bar diagram is there. So I have the bar diagram that says Maze, and then it's 1,219. So there's the boxes of cards, and she has 3 times as many. So that's what this bar diagram represents. My total right here, right, the total is going to be at the top, represents B. And then I have Sharon's. So if I take the information that I have, the first value that I have is the 1,219. So I have the 1,219, and I have this value right here, 3 times as many. So I'm going to multiply that by 3. And then this problem, they did give me the variable. They did give me what the total is. The total is going to be B for boxes of cards. So from there, I can go ahead and I can solve. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to go ahead and I'm going to want to do my estimation. So I'm going to do 1,200 multiplied by, that went funky, 3 equals 3,600. Okay, so my next step is going to be to solve. So I'm going to solve for this, and how I'm going to solve for this is I'm going to set my problem up vertically and then solve. So I have 1,219, and I'm going to multiply that by 3, and then that will tell me what B is equal to. So 3 times 9 is 27, so I put down the 7, I regroup the 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is going to be 5. 3 times 2 is going to be 6. 3 times 1 is going to be 3. So the number of cards that I have, so I'm going to check to see if it's reasonable. It's a very reasonable estimate. 3,600 is very close to 3,657. And then I'm going to just make sure that I add in my variable and say that B is equal to 3,657. Now this step is important, especially because next year you guys really are going to start focusing on some work where you're solving for the variable as one of the factors and not as your total. So you need to start getting comfortable telling me what the value of the variable is. So B is equal to 3,657. All right, so you are going to do your 3 problems in your independent practice. So you already have a bar diagram in problem number 3, but I do want to see a bar diagram for problems 4 and 5 just to kind of get a feel of what it looks like. And then you guys are going to work on solving your back problems. And actually looking at problems 4 and 5, I don't want you drawing a bar diagram. I do want an equation. So for 3 through 5, no bar diagram. But I do want an equation. because the values that they have given you for a bar diagram on 4 and 5, it's not going to be beneficial for you to draw out that big of a bar diagram. Okay, so you are going to work on what you need for your independent practice 3 through 5, and then you're going to do your math practices and problem